Well, all right. Well, we're live on Thursday morning, and that will be the most unique part of our show. We only have our guest on for a limited time today, but I'm really looking forward to this one. How was your morning, Stu?
Well, my Thursdays are always a little hectic. I take my son to an appointment in the mornings, and then I have to scramble back across town to get home to be in position. So yeah, everything else is going okay. We've got the goat of all goats on today.
Right.
Go on, Chris. Without further ado.
I have part of it up on my board here, but 47 PBA titles, 14 times on the PBA 50, 115 overall, 4.9 million in earnings, 3-time junior world horseshoe champion, 6-time men's world horseshoe champion. I believe one of those was with the opposite hand because he got so bored winning with the other one. He also has a degree in physics and a minor in mathematics. So not only was he the best, he was also the smartest guy in the room. And like you said, he's the GOAT. Walter Ray Williams Jr. I said that right, didn't you? I got trained early when I was on tour, but that was the right one.
Well, thank you, Chris. I've been called lots of things. For Walter Ray, though.
All right. Oh, 7-time player of the year. I didn't actually throw that in there.
Yeah,
just decade. Okay. No big deal.
I was running out of breath.
And I did pitch horseshoe several times at the World Tournament left-handed, but I didn't win. I did finish second a couple times, but that was much later on. And it wasn't because I got bored. It was because my horseshoe game got so bad in my viewpoint. And I thought, well, when I was young, I broke my finger and I broke my wrist different times, and I'd learned how to play left-handed. And I thought, you know what? I think if I practiced, I could be about as good left-handed as I was right-handed at that time, because I was way less at that time pitching horseshoes than I was when I was a champion. And I actually did. In the last 18 years, my best 2 world tournaments were pitching left-handed, which to me is really pathetic. And it's that's how bad I play right-handed. And you know, it's a credit that I was able to do it left-handed. But there was also several top players that weren't there, so I was able to finish second. And even though I finished second, I had absolutely no chance of winning, because the guy who won has been the guy who's won since I last won in '94. He's won. Well, they didn't have the tournament this year; they canceled it. But the last 25 years, he's won it 22 times and finished second the other 3 times.
You were talking about this guy. He goes,
yeah, he's as good as I ever was playing horseshoes, and I was really good at one time. He's a touch better than that all the time. And
yeah,
it's really hard to explain to people who they don't know horseshoes very well, so they don't understand it. But in horseshoes, obviously, the better players dominate a lot more. And for us from bowling statistically is a very, very, very short game. It's only 10 frames, and then you throw into that all the variables. You can throw a perfect shot and not get a strike. You can throw a horrible shot and get a strike. So in horseshoes, pretty much you throw a good shot, you get a good result. It doesn't happen. Every once in a while they bounce off, and most of the time you throw a bad shot, it doesn't go on. Every once in a while they do bounce on or something like that. Those are really rare exceptions. This guy has averaged over 90% in the World Tournament. I never averaged 90% in the World Tournament, but I did do it several times in local tournaments. And so that's every 10 shoes, I would have 9 ringers. Right now, I'm about 7 out of 10 on a decent day. And so my best days now are not even as good as my worst days when I was good. And it's really hard to explain that to people. And even though I'm 60, the age really isn't the reason why.
We have we have some really good fans, and they asked we're waiting for the two-handed horseshoe pitch. You
Yeah,
have one with the bag?
that's kind of interesting. Several years ago, if you remember, they had the U.S. Open in Texas.
They did.
They had they had a horseshoe court inside next to the bar. It wasn't full length. And I had told Jason Belmonte, I said, you know what, horseshoe is kind of a challenging game. If you've never played it, you'd be lucky to get 3 ringers out of 100. And I said, well, okay, now this is a shorter distance. It was basically the ladies' distance, so it's 30 feet instead of 40 feet. And I said, well, it's a shorter distance. I'm going to say you're going to be lucky to get 6 out of 100. He did manage to get 3 out of 100, and he had to pitch. He pitched one-handed. So basically, you know, he knows how to bowl one-handed. You both know that. He throws a ball pretty well one-handed. A lot of people don't realize that, but obviously he's much better two-handed.
Yeah, he's quite confident in his one-handed bowling until
he's very good. It'd be interesting to see what he would do in a tournament just one-handed, because he's a very good athlete. I'm sure he'd be pretty decent.
I'll play him for any amount of money he wants in his life one-handed. No problem.
Yeah.
I bowled a couple of times when Belmont's been trying to throw it one-handed. He tries to use a balance hole and he thinks it feels okay. No. Like, let's just no.
Okay.
It's bad. He can throw the odd shot, but it's like Oscar. Oscar can
probably like me bowling two-handed.
No. He's if he bowls one-handed and I bowl two-handed, he's going to crush me. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I do think it's history. I think it's one of the things that did get fixed about the PBA was that you went to the Hall of Fame in 1995 and won 32 more times after that. You qualified for it 3 more times.
Yeah. It's it was a little interesting when I was on tour. When I first started on tour, there were very few guys over 40 that were bowling on tour.
Right.
And my personal thought was when I got to 40, I'd probably retire. But I didn't do that. Fortunately, I still pretty well at that age. And up until I was 50, I was still bowling pretty decent. My last 10 years have been pretty marginal. I probably should have retired several years ago, but I enjoy competition. And I think having the PBA 50 tour, I was able to keep my game elevated a little bit better by being on the regular tour. And being a lot more competitive on the senior tour. And I gave up some stuff, but I've also done some clinics and stuff like that to kind of help my income and stuff. But definitely the last couple of years on the regular tour has been very frustrating and something I said I would never do, but I did. And next year I will probably not bowl very much at all on the regular tour, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 events, and that's it. And hopefully they have a tour.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, we're all going through this. They canceled the PBA 50 tour. They did reschedule the one tournament to be here, or not. They made a special event, and unfortunately, I got canceled just a couple of days ago. And unfortunately, not a huge surprise. It's very sad and disappointing that that the country's in the state that it's in, and I don't know how well it's going to get out of it. I think, unfortunately, there's too many people that think it's a hoax and doesn't really mean anything, and it doesn't. That the only reason they're doing this is it's all political, and I think that they don't understand things. I was just listening to the radio, and they were talking about Korea, South Korea. I know you guys have traveled all over the country, all over the world, and in Asia, they have no problem wearing a mask, and they've been doing it for years.
Right.
And they definitely control what happens there a lot better. And if people here in this country would be okay with that, I think we could have businesses open and things would be a lot better. But unfortunately, there's too many people think it's political, and because of that, and they won't follow the policies and the rules, and it's really kind of a shame. They've made it way too political, and it really doesn't need to be, but it is what it is. And I know one day we'll get out of it, but it'd be nicer if it was sooner than later. And unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a question. Oh, there you go. Have you ever tried your hand at cornhole?
Seems like you'd be pretty good, Chris.
I've done that a couple times. One of the guys who's really one of the top players in cornhole, I used to play competitively in horseshoes, is from Kentucky. His name is Matt Guy. You can look him up. I think he's been world champion like 6 or 7 times. I actually talked to him after we got home from the World Series. He was actually in Las Vegas there for the World Series. And he was doing an exhibition or whatever, or matches or whatever, and they were doing a setup. I don't know if you know where Circus is. They had some big old, they had a big thing going on while we were in town that week and a half, and he was challenging anybody and everybody. He told me that the most anybody scored off of him was like 10 points, and he played 250 matches. Yeah, this guy is really good. I see videos of him. He does a lot of trick shots, and you're like, well, how can you do trick shots in cornhole? He does a bunch of trick shots, and his name is Matt Guy. It's Guy, and he and his son they play doubles together, and he's been world champion like 6 or 8 times, and just a phenomenal player. And he makes pretty good money at it, but he has a regular job. But you know, and I get asked that all the time, and unfortunately, it just doesn't interest me. I probably could be pretty decent at it, but it just doesn't interest me. I've been playing a lot of horseshoes lately. I'm starting to get a little better, but you know, over the last 10 years, my game has gotten so bad, and then my index finger is hurting. It's my index finger is swollen. I don't know if you can see it very well, but on my right hand, my index finger this finger is like really swollen compared to this one. Yeah. And it hurts, and it doesn't bother me bowling, but when I play horseshoes, it kind of hurt a little bit.
To be fair, that's a different finger than you've ever showed me before.
Well, you're not always number one, so
yeah.
So I have a strategic question for you, Walter.
Yes.
Do you think that the beard or the mustache was where you were most successful?
It's kind of funny. In '93, that was I consider it my best year ever. And during the spring or I think it was probably in the spring, they had their board, the PBA board meeting, and they actually modified the facial hair rule that you can start wearing facial hair. So I grew a beard, and halfway through the season, and one of the guys who, well, you know him, Dave Schroeder, he's like, man, I can't believe you did that. You're having such a good season. I can't believe you did that, because I guess, unfortunately, way too many sports guys are superstitious. I'm not, and I'm like, whatever. And so during that season, I was half without a beard and half with a beard. And I wore a beard for, God, I don't know, 12 years or so. And then finally it got a little bit gray. And then I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I actually grew it back, and it was all white.
Well, I was just looking through the old videos, and you had like several tiles with the mustache, and then you had the really good year with the beard, and then it came back a couple of times, like, you know, in the shows that I was watching. So I was just wondering whether, like, because there was that advert, I think it was for Bud Light. They were talking about superstitions, and one that says it's only silly when it doesn't work. And being as I roomed with Patrick for so long,
oh boy,
you know,
which is interesting because he's a pretty smart guy, but boy, he's yeah.
I honestly think to be really superstitious, you have to actually be quite smart, because to get track of all the things that might have happened that might have caused that to happen, you've got to have like a pretty sharp brain. You've just got to have a piece of your brain that's missing.
I think that's part of it. Your piece of your brain is maybe a little too much OCD. Maybe that might be part of it, because I think he probably had a little bit of that.
I also think that most of his was more of a shtick. It was a bit of fun. Yeah. Where Schaefer, and he had the whole deal where he'd never drill balls that had certain numbers in the serial number and all of this.
That's pretty impressive. I'm like, wow, if that's going to stop you from bowling well, wow, okay.
I used to say I actually was superstitious. This none of you knew it, because I kept losing with every new superstition, so I just ran out. Pretty good question here. Out of all your accomplishments, which one do you value the most?
I would say the back-to-back player of the decade. I think that's probably something going to be very difficult to do.
That's the one. Best player for 20 years. That's a big deal.
Yeah. That's kind of a big deal. I think that's something gonna be very tough to do.
You think?
Yeah, just a little bit. One other question, because obviously it's sport and bowling gets into those debates. Outside of yourself, who do you think's been your fiercest competitor over your career?
Oh God! Well, the problem is there's so many talented players. I mean, there was always a big deal made about me and Pete. Okay, we only bowled each other 10 times on TV. You know,
and you won all of them, so that's not.
No,
really
I didn't win all of them, but I won all the title matches, so that definitely helped. But when you think about it in those terms, it's not like we compete against each other, on TV that much against each other. So it's all these other guys, Norm Duke, Parker Bone, Mike Albee, Brian Voss, and Leto Monicelli, all these other superstars. Those are the guys. It wasn't just one guy. It was a bunch of guys.
Most,
And then there's all the guys you never heard of. A Brian Davis who was on TV one time and just managed to stop me from getting 3 wins in a row because I only shot 268 at him. He beat me by 30 points.
Not bitter about it. So, who did you play the most times on TV?
I think probably Pete.
Really?
I think Pete's probably the one I probably bowled the most on TV.
I always found it because of course when I was in England we got the PBA like sporadically or whatever. Right. I always find it amazing, like from the layman's, people looking on the outside, they would think that you and Norm are somewhat similar, but you guys didn't really make very many shows together where you were bowling kind of straight.
Well, we would make shows together, but I think we only bowled each other about 6 or maybe 7 times.
Yeah,
like you and I might have bowled each other more than that.
I think you and I bowled each other 6 or 7 times.
Yeah,
so, I mean, and that's probably right up there, second most or something like that. I had a guy who sent me all the stuff, all my stats and TV stats, and so I have it somewhere in my computer, but I don't look at it every day. I guess I should, but that says who I bowled against, who I got wins and losses and stuff, and it's a pretty complete list. It was pretty impressive.
We made a lot of shows together, and it would make sense because I went on my career. I made no shows, and I'm like, well, he's the man. What's he do that I don't do?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to learn how to do a lot more of that. And so I tried to get a lot better at the things that you were, among the many things that you were good at. But so I think it makes some sense that we had similar strategies at different times.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that makes a lot of the better players better is their ability to do more one thing. Everybody thinks that I can only play first arrow, and that's really not true. I can play 5th or 6th arrow. The difference is I don't play 5th or 6th arrow like the modern players. But back in the old days, when I first came on tour, I hated the fresh pattern. I wanted to be on B squad and let me play 5th or 6th arrow. I was good at that back then, but the rev rates were way lower. The way they played the lanes, it was fallback. It wasn't hooking the whole length. I remember a couple of years ago when they first came out with a 52-foot pattern, and all the young players are talking about how they couldn't hook the ball on the 52-foot pattern because it's only hooking this much instead of this much, and it's what their eyes are used to seeing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm used to playing 5th arrow where the ball's going from 25 or 30 at the arrows, going to 17 and never getting right at 17 before it hits the head pin.
No, where you get a 3-pin, but the left side of the 3-pin.
Well, I mean, but I did that, and the thing is you can score well doing that. The problem is nowadays it's a different game. You guys, if they're not getting the ball past 10 at the break point, it's like, wow, they're thinking their ball's backing up in the pocket.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that because I was chatting with Fancy, your wife, I don't know, a year ago maybe, and I was laughing about one tournament early on in my career where you were bowling really far to the left and you were hooking it, and I said, man, I stood there and I watched Walter and I was like, man, he's so lucky. And I said, and when you have the 3rd strike, well, off the pin stayed on the deck and you struck, I go, I guess he's just really good. He's not lucky because to my eyes, I was watching it and I couldn't get the ball to strike like that. but you were doing it so frequently and every single time the same way that it really opened my eyes to how different there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. And it's amazing that like people consider you to be the guy who's just bowling like to the right part of to the outside part of the lane. And I'm like, if you're ever at a tournament, that's nowhere near the truth. It's just that's what ends up happening a lot on TV.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, well, it's not necessarily unfortunate because they kind of had to. Back in the old days, they bowled once a day, so you had to move in and you had to play that deep inside line every night block, every year, every week. So if you didn't figure out how to do that, you were basically shooting yourself in the foot. Now it's the guys get there in the third game instead of game 20. It's the way the lanes are oiled, the way the balls take the oil off the lane, the way and the rev rates. I mean, that's one thing I noticed about me. When I bowl one-handed, I only hook the ball so much, and my rev rate probably hasn't changed in the last 35 years. And back when I first came on tour, I had a bunch of guys say, "Wow, you're a cranker. You hook the ball this much." Now guys look at me and they're like, "Well, you're a straight player." Well, compared to all the modern players, I am a straight player. Compared to the guys from the 70s and stuff, I was actually hooked the ball a fair amount. And
I can empathize with you.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Your rev rate is in the middle of the pack, and maybe slightly lower than that.
But they call me a short
when I bowl two-handed, I hook the ball so much more two-handed than I do one-handed, and it still doesn't even. I still hook the ball less than most of the guys on tour. My rev rate's still lower than the guys on tour, and they're throwing it 2 miles an hour harder than I do when I bowl two-handed. That's how much more their rev rate is than my rev rate when I bowl two-handed. And my rev rate's probably still in the bottom 20% when I bowl two-handed on tour.
I tell the story when I came on tour. By then, you were winning all the time. You largely would play two-handed on TV shows, and so that was the perception. Hey, well, Walter Ray's always. And we're at the car wash at Marcel's Olympic Bowl, and it's going the last round on Friday night of match play. You're like in fifth, and it's Hoskins and Mike Miller and Himmler. I mean, it's all the guys that curve it, and they all just knock the holes out of every shot. And you're like, well, Walter's going to have a hard time hanging on tonight. And by the fifth game, you were in the lead, loft and left gutter cap, and about 27, and just beating the piss out of all the guys that were supposed to be experts at that part of the lane. And that was my aha moment. That I knew you could play a lot of parts of the lane, but I didn't think you were going to beat all those guys in my rookie year. I don't know. We weren't very far in the tour. Like, oh, he does everything, and that was, So it leads back to a second story. At one point, it was inferred, at least, that you choose to play straight on the shows because you felt like it gave you the highest. Your misses were better when you played straight under pressure.
Well, the difference is when I don't have to follow other guys and I can play my own line, I can play there. But as soon as I go to another pair, the lane's not broken down in that spot. Mm-hmm. I can't play that spot anymore. So I have to follow what everybody else is doing. And now on the regular tour, it's even more magnified. Mm-hmm. So and even though I think they've actually tried to put out shots that put a little bit more emphasis on playing outside, it's not enough. And it's, the guys just go away from it immediately. They might bowl their first game playing second arrow or to the right of that. And the next game, they're automatically an arrow or two arrows left. It's just amazing how that works. And I've gotten my eyes opened up a little bit because of my two-handed practice or whatever that I'm getting a little better at and doing that and seeing how much more that hooks and where you got to play the lane and stuff. I see why guys do what they do. I never totally understood it before, but now I kind of get it. But the other part of that is you learn how to do that, playing straighter. And Norm Duke did that. Pete's okay at it. He just chooses to hook the ball because he's really good at doing that. Mm-hmm. But the time that he was also very good at playing up the first arrow and stuff. He just doesn't do it very often. And I think part of whatever's happened in the lane conditions the last, 10 years, guys don't do it as much as they did 30 years ago. but they've also learned how to use the urethane balls and to go straighter that way. But it's like as soon as that, that goes away, they immediately go dead left, and they're awesome at it. And that's what makes them so good.
Yeah. I guess my question is, did you choose to play straight on the shows because you feel like that back?
Oh, because I can play. They give you a little practice. I can maybe create a little tiny shot if there's a little shot already there, and I kind of create a little touch more. And I'm going to have better angle there. That's where my better carry is going to be. But if I have to follow that all day long, I mean, like several years ago when he had the U.S. Open at Vegas, and they only held once a day, the C squad, I was playing sixth arrow, and I had my best round of the tournament, and that's not squad playing sixth arrow. Now Marshall Kent, he was playing 44 or whatever because he was lofted 25, 30 feet down the lane and crushing them. But it's something I can't do. I can loft the ball, but not like that. And but it's people don't understand because they only see me on TV, and that's what most people see. They think, oh, you can play first or second arrow. Well, why should I play fourth or fifth arrow if I can play first or second arrow, and that's going to give me a better reaction?
No, exactly. I mean, I think the thing that I think both of you two have in common that I really tried to incorporate was how much you two both want to practice. Like, even now,
on tour, definitely on tour, I practice. I need to practice more when I'm at home. That's my biggest problem. I have to really, really, really push myself to go practice. It's not like, okay, I'm going to practice every single day, because I don't. And then when I do practice, I practice for an hour or so, and that's enough. And I had enough. Like today, that's what I did. I bowled 6 games. I bowled 4 games one-handed and 2 games two-handed. And that's really not enough to get that much better. It's kind of where I'm at.
You have been at this 45 years.
Yes, but the game is not what it was 10 or 15 years ago.
I'm just saying that, like, you're allowed to like ease down a little bit when you. What I mean is like the younger guys now, you probably still practice more than a lot of those guys because that's just not what they do. And like I said, when I came out, I was rooming with PA a lot. He's a lunatic practicer. He had me holding a phone, and they'd switched on glow bowling across the bowling center. What he was going to see when there was no lights on, but he still wanted me to try and video him. And got to hit the range, Mark. And that's what you guys do. And like I practice a lot because that's the only way I feel like I can ever get better.
Definitely. But when I was on back in the old days when I was younger, when the tour was off, I wouldn't bowl for 3 weeks. But when the tour was getting ready to come on, about a week before, I would start practicing, and I would probably practice an hour a day, and then I would get into, but for me, there was so much bowling back then, we're bowling 40, 50, 60 games a week competition, and 30 tournaments a year. So a lot more competitive bowling. And to me, tournament bowling is the best practice. But unfortunately, the last 10 years, I haven't gotten as much tournament practice on the regular tour.
Amongst your many records, that was one of them, was most competitive games in a season, right?
Yeah.
And what is that number?
I think it was 1,300. Yeah, now they're what, 300 or 400? And a lot of it has to do with the formats that they have and the number of tournaments that we had. Back then we were over 30 tournaments a year, and that particular season they went from 18 games of qualifying to 24 games of qualifying. So they had 3 8-game blocks, and then they had the 3 8-game blocks of match play. So I'm making the finals a lot.
A lot?
A lot. Out of the 30 tournaments, I probably made the finals, 23 times or something like that. I didn't make it every week, but I made it a lot.
Yeah. No, it was. Yeah, to put it in context, if you only bowl league, you have to bowl league double shifted every night, except Sunday. You only have to bowl one night once on Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
That would be 1,300 games for the season.
Yep. And that's just tournament games. That's not practice and all that other stuff. Oh, yeah. Regionals and other little tournaments. Not that I did a lot of that, but I did a little bit. I did bowl regionals when I could, but And also I was still pretty heavy into horseshoes that year, even though my horseshoe game sucked that year.
Yeah, if I can do the math right, you have about 50 regional titles too.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Not bad.
I think people really. The other story I like to tell about you all the time, because people make up their perceptions on TV, is when we go to the training center for Team USA, and we do that stupid 12-minute run thing.
Oh.
At 50 years old, you'd show up, and you might not have your golf shorts or whatever, and you strap your knee brace on, and we get on, and it's Tommy and Billy and I, and I'm 10 years younger. They're 10 years younger than me, and we're all running at the same time, and we're all looking over each other's shoulder because we all want to win. I don't know when the last time you'd run before that, probably maybe sometime.
I didn't run a lot.
And you just kept going faster, and Billy's over there going, he had no business being even wanting to try and win this competition, but because the four of us were there and we were the most competitive people.
We're all competitive.
Yeah,
yes.
We're competitive. I'm like, he's trying to win this thing. I'm like, we were almost crippled for the rest of the week. Right.
I was not in good shape the next day. Trust me.
And so it was actually welcome. You completely underestimate how much his drive to just compete at everything he does is factors into the whole thing, because you don't walk around and or what some people do, and but that spirit's so strong. It's
I mean, I find it like mind blowing, to be honest, how many regionals that both you and Pete have won. Like, you've literally won more regionals than I've ever bowled.
Well, they didn't have a lot of regionals in England, so that's part of it.
They call those EBTs. So yeah.
Well, the other thing is what a lot of people don't realize. Now, I've got the most wins. I've also probably had the most non-wins.
Well, no, Ernie's still around.
No, I think I've got more tournaments than Ernie because, because consider
I have 100 more wins.
And I bowled basically full time since 1983. So I've probably got well over 1,000 tournaments on the national tour, just on the national tour.
Yeah. You've also got no years off for suspensions either.
No.
So, how many second place finishes do you have to go together with that on the national?
I believe I have 47.
So you have basically 50-50.
94 title matches. That
I believe it's yes, I believe that's the case.
Now I know the last 15 years are basically there wasn't a lot of total pins. How many times did you lead?
That I couldn't tell you. I do know that I had a losing record from the top seed.
As a top seed.
So I actually won not more tournaments, but I won, I made up the difference on, moving up the ladder and stuff.
I heard that at the Masters it was pretty good to let the guy win in the final bracket and then take him out in the title match. I heard that was a good plan.
Not getting personal. I don't understand.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to be nice for once.
Well, to be fair, you did shoot 558 in those last two games.
That's all?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I remember the time you're playing the gutter in warm-ups, and I go, okay, I'm going to play just inside of that, and your first ball goes high, and I'm like, got him.
That was except that shot, that was one of the best games I ever bowled on TV. Because I think the next 11 were high flush.
Yeah, you didn't miss it all. And I'd walled them up from just inside of that. You should have hook left.
I was really surprised that you played as far left as you were, because I knew I had such a nice reaction, and I knew you were originally going to play just left of me, and I'm thinking this is going to be really tough. And when you played, you bowled a great game. You got a couple of bad breaks, with the carry and stuff, and that's part of bowling. Which unfortunate, but it is part of the game.
That was the spring where I could bowl with whatever I wanted to get to the show, and then I had to throw my brand on the show, and it didn't work out. I left like 4 10-pins for like 2 teen, and not that it mattered, because after the first one I was done. But
but you didn't know that at the time. But yeah,
I didn't. By the time
the third one, the third one, you think you knew, but yeah, but
so. I do have one TV show I vaguely remember seeing was you were using the I'm pretty sure you won, and you used the Black Hammer 2001.
Yeah.
And for all of your achievements, I think winning with that ball might be up there as one of the better achievements, because I had one of those balls, and I understand that I wasn't very good at the time, but that ball made bowling a lot harder.
Well, I don't know. He won with a Heimlich too. I mean, a helix too.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that.
I like the Hammer 2001. I did pretty decent with that ball.
Yeah. For me, once the oil got on the ball, I could never get it off. It hooked less and less every shot.
Well, I'm kind of used to that.
You just saw it as more hold every shot.
Well, hopefully.
They told me that they stopped using him for ball tests in Hoptown, because he just made all the balls look however you wanted them to look, no matter which ones they were.
Yeah, I always like, well, okay, it might not work on this condition, but I'm sure on another condition it'll work all right. Just move your feet, move your target kind of stuff. But
off a little, get around a little, throw a little harder. I'm saying the same with all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely have the touch of a magician, that's for sure.
Thank you. I used to, not so much anymore. I have my moments now, but it's not the moments are not like they used to be. That's for sure. But I still like competing. So, and I bowled a couple of local tournaments the last couple of weeks, and 2 weeks ago I managed to beat all the young guys. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I saw that. Your Facebook page is. It's almost like you're getting more ratings than the PBA just for your Facebook at the minute.
It's pretty impressive. I was surprised when I saw how many people were watching. Now the realization is most of those people are probably only watching for a couple of minutes. I'm pretty sure they're not watching the entire time. Now when the regional tournaments or the sweepers and stuff, they might watch more of it, assuming that I got a decent feed. That's part of the problem. But I'm amazed. I mean, even pitching horseshoes, I get, anywhere from 50 to 100,000 people watching at one time, which I'm like, wow, that's nice. It's impressive. I like that. So I keep doing it. And I had a practice session today, and at one time I had 300 or 400 people watching at one time, which is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
With league, a couple weeks ago in league, we had over 1,000 people watching live at one time, which is
crazy. Yeah.
And it's just a league, but I think it helps that I interact with the people, and they'll ask questions and I'll answer them and stuff. So I think that probably helps a little bit.
So check out Walter Ray's Facebook page. Just like Chris, putting up videos, getting thousands and thousands and thousands of people to watch. Chris has been doing his Tuesday afternoon action. He had quite a few viewers for that, for sure as well. Not maybe in the 300,000s like you had a couple of videos, but still, certainly in the 80,000 viewers. So.
Nothing wrong with that.
Somebody wants to know, what are you averaging in league two-handed there? So,
well, I had a good set the other day. Last Tuesday, I bowled two-handed in league, and I do that for 2 reasons. One, so I can practice two-handed, and the other is to have fun. And I actually enjoy it. I have fun. It's a little bit more of a strategy thing. They hook a little bit in league. So my first game, I use a black diamond, which goes really straight. You think a plastic ball goes straight? That black diamond goes even straighter. It's amazing, and it thumps all the way down the lane. Which in a couple weeks I won't be able to use it because it actually has a thumb hole. And I come out when I bowl two-handed. but I didn't miss the pocket for the entire 3 games and shot 700.
Nice.
Well, not missing a pocket, the first time I've done that. I had 840 in December, bowling 200 and subbing in a league. And then a couple pair away, somebody shot 832, 277, 279, 276. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
300s in the league. I think I'm probably averaging about 220. I shot 700, and I had a good week the week before, but I think I had 590 the second week. So got to keep the average down because there is handy. It's a fun league. It's a bunch of scratch bowlers. It's 3-man team. You got scratch opponents. The top players against top player, second player against second player, the bottom player against bottom player. You get points for that, but those are all scratch games, and then it's team handicap and total handicap. So they get 18 points for. It's a fun little league. Bowling with a couple of guys. Our league average is only like maybe 630. We might be up to 640 now, but I think the league is like 650, and there's several teams that are much better than that. So, I got to go, guys. I got to go pick my daughter up, and you guys have a good one. Thanks for inviting me on, and I'll see you somewhere. I'm not sure how much I'm going to bowl next year, but I'll see you somewhere. Chris,
I'll see if we get.
Hopefully, we'll see you in Portland. Hopefully that doesn't get canceled. And I'm sure somewhere on the senior tour, I'll see Chris a little bit more. Stu, you take care of your children. Chris, I know your kids are getting big. So, and say hi to your lovely wife. All right.
Okay. Take care, Walter.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Walter.
So that was abrupt.
And it's time. He said he had to go at 45 past. So I think he just realized he was up on the number. So, but
yeah. Here's a quick question for you, Chris. What is your most memorable match? And they're talking about positive, memorable matches.
Yeah. I mean, the one that always comes to mind is against Patrick at the U.S. Open. And he'd strike 9 spare. I'd struck him the 9th, so I had to double in the 10th and get 9 to win. And I'd had a lot of issues before that, so that's probably the most memorable. I've had some really good ones against Walter. I've been on the wrong side of a few of them, and my record against him is actually okay. It's in that 500 range, which is about as good as you're going to do against the best players. But making Mika wear the pants and then the jersey was always fun. I actually don't remember much about the match. More I remember about him having to wear them later. Was the most fun. Norm, I have a lot of memorable ones, but they're not good memories against Norm.
I was about to ask that. Not being a complete ass about it though. From my own personal experiences, do you remember the losses more than you remember the wins?
Early on, absolutely. As I've gotten older, I've gotten better at just taking what I can take from the losses and then tossing those aside. I hung on to the losses way more early, and it was a detriment because I couldn't let some of it go, and so I was carrying baggage onto future shows there for a while, and way worried about what everybody thought and that kind of thing. So, yeah, ironically, my first match against Norm, I beat him for the title, playing the gutter. My second year on tour, and then I think he clipped me probably the next 2 or 3 times in a row for titles after that. And I got him for another one somewhere. But yeah, Norm's been pretty tough on me. He's stolen a couple of them that basically I had the best ball reaction and should have definitely won. And he just found a way to kind of steal a victory out of him.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Tammy. There you go.
There you go.
Funny story quickly about, you're talking about beating Norm playing the gutter. So Norm was talking to Dom one time in Maine about how, hey, I watch what you do with this, and I really focus, because Dom was trying to pick his brain, and of course, it's always dangerous trying to pick Norm's brain because you don't know whether he's messing with you or not. But he was saying that, like, when he tries to loop it, he tries to think about what Dom does. And Dom goes to him, looks him dead in the face, and goes, "Funny you should say that. Remember when Simonelli won the US Open and I ran up the ladder and I beat you? I was thinking about bowling like you." And about 2 hours later, Norm came back and he goes, "So what you're trying to tell me is you Norm Duke. And Dom goes, "That's exactly what I'm telling you, Norm."
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny. I think about it. Norm and I didn't bowl a lot on TV in qualifying matches. Like, we bowled each other for titles, actually, a fair amount. Or non-title titles, or I mean, they would be titles, but they're not titles, or they were titles then, but now are. I don't know what the summer series thing. We did that once, a few times on the made for TV stuff too. But yeah, it's interesting.
So Casey, I thought it was very predictable, and that's just the way it was going to be. Money, money, money. So, yeah, that was just the way it was going to be. I don't know why anybody thought it was going to be any different. They have rules in European soccer about how much money you can spend and not spend and over a certain part. And it's basically supposed to be there to stop teams going broke. But what it also does is it allows the elite teams to stay elite. So if a team gets bought by another, but like, if a team gets bought out by a Saudi oil king, it makes it harder for him to just pump money into the club. And Manchester City were cheating a little bit with that, but they never do anything about it. So shockingly, they didn't do anything about it. No way. Did you see what Frank wrote earlier? It made me
Yeah. First EJ, then Walter Ray.
Yeah.
Can we get somebody on here we can troll a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I tried to play a practical joke on Walter, and it's probably the only time that I saw his sense of humor. We were in Austin, and Dell used to call him Wally Gator, and it was not anything that Walter appreciated even a little bit. And so the legend then therefore then grows. And so I found a little alligator beanie baby, and I glued it onto his bag. And the Bowling News that week down in Texas had his picture on, of course, because he probably won the week before. And so I cut out the face of it, put it on that, and then glued the thing onto his bag. And it was up on one of those 3-tiered things, so it was hanging over about eye level. And the way the headline was, I cut out some things, and it was Walter Ray lives here. And so he, of course, found it because he was on the other squad going back and forth. And I didn't get to witness it, which is what I wanted. But he pulled it off, and pretty soon Damon comes up to me and goes, I have to I need you to sign a fine slip. I said, what for? I mean, there was plenty of them that I deserved, but this time I actually hadn't done anything, so I didn't know why. And so he goes, yeah, and it's a big one. It's not the 100, it's the 500. It's the code of conduct. Oh, what do you do? Well, you destroyed another player's bag. Because when Walter had to pull the beanie baby off, it ripped his bag, and so I'm going to have to give you a code of conduct. Well, and now I went 0 to 100, completely flipped out. You got to be kidding me! And I'll walk mine, Walter's prayer. You take yourself more seriously, blah, da da da. And he finally turns around and goes, and Damon's standing next to me and goes, gotcha. Like, that was pretty good. I didn't know he had that in it.
Well, and Damon is a little bit of a stiff shirt, isn't he? So having him in the involved also.
Yeah, you had two guys that played it by the book pretty squarely, and they got me. I didn't see it coming. Thanks, Rick. You're the reason why I got good at best of sevens, at least faster than the other guys did.
Well, it was also because you were better than all but 3 of the guys going straight, and you were better than those 3 at hooking it. That was a pretty good recipe for being good at a best of 7 match.
it did help that you didn't care where you played.
Yeah.
Now it would be a little different. It'd be a little hard to move a fair amount of those boys off their spot since they are already there.
Well, it's also with the way the lanes break down as well, like with the way the oils are now and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what guys would do is what Mika did a lot.
Though.
You what?
I think it would be interesting, though, bowling those best of sevens, like, and you get somebody like, I mean, I'll take myself, like, I can make the scoring pace pretty miserable. Like, when I bowled the Masters, if I bowl a right-hander, the odds are you're not going to score 700.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, some of our guys now would not have a whole lot of fun bowling themselves. So
no, but if you help them along a little.
They'd never bowled match play. Yeah. Well, you do what Mika did, and you just snowball the middle of the lane and then just move back to the right. Yeah,
but the thing is sometimes you can be a little more subtle than that. You don't even really need to be quite as obnoxious as that.
Yeah.
You only have to help it along a little bit.
I did with Domo at the World Championship one time, and he was only on tour for about 5 minutes at the time.
Yeah.
And I got away with it. And I because Baker was there, it was one of the first times I didn't even bowl that good. And I won't get away with that one. In the next 2 years or so, no one will beat him like that again.
The other thing as well is urethane balls have made it a lot harder to do that to people. So, like, especially Jason, for example, like, it doesn't matter where you bowl. He can stand on top of you with the urethane ball.
Right. That's hard. He's smart enough now to.
It's very hard to beat a urethane ball without throwing a urethane ball.
Yeah.
That's why Machuga, the 2 or 3 times that he's bowled Jason at the Masters, has done really well because Machuga's excellent throwing the blue hammer, and he can make it hook a lot.
Yeah, he can speed control and just make it hook enough to make it go wherever it needs to.
He's actually done really well because what Jason's doing doesn't really affect him as much. But even the other guys who are maybe don't have as much touch, who are doing well with urethane, they don't. It doesn't work out so good for them.
Very true.
Okay, well, the main event has gone. We should stop stretching this out, and I guess we'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Quickly, one quick thing. Should we just brush on the events being cancelled and?
Well, yeah. I guess USBC did announce yesterday that everything is canceled through the end of the year, or postponed/canceled. Obviously, USBC Open Championships and Women's Championships are just canceled this year because you'll be into next year's season by the time they kick off again.
Yeah, and I guess the same with the Masters, because we're just not going to have a champion in 2020.
Yeah, it appears that's going to be the case. So,
one order of business, they did say that they were going to offer refunds, which I was quite happy about. I was getting a little bit annoyed at them just constantly leaving it up in the air. So I was glad to see that they made a announcement over getting the money back. So yeah, that was a little sad. The PBA seems like they're all systems go. We've got events this weekend on CBS Sports. The PBA Tour Finals, one of Chris's favorites, 8-man field. The only time Chris likes that event is when he's working for CBS.
I like the event. It's a money grab. I'm not sure it should be a title grab, but I tend to be in the minority of those things. So
yeah, I mean, I've come to the conclusion that we should just put more emphasis on majors and not bother with what counts as a title or not, because the PGA Tour doesn't really worry too much, and they don't go, oh my God, he's got 17 titles out here on the PGA Tour. They go, he's got 2 majors. And that tends to
I don't actually think, I think way more, when I think of Phil's record, I don't know what his majors title is, but I know he has, 30 some or whatever it is.
Yeah, he has 6 majors.
There you go.
Just 3 times. But I mean, you just never hear them talk about how many titles they have, whereas that's all we talk about. And then we spend a lot of time getting upset about what counts and what doesn't count. And I feel like the easy way to get around that situation is just to talk about majors. And then
we just keep adding majors every year until there's 7 of those. So,
but yeah, should be an interesting deal. Although it'll be pretty much the same guys as you've already seen bowl again, and then I'm not 100% sure when it's starting, but they're also got the King of Bowling that's being filmed. Walter Ray spoke about it briefly. He's bowling against Pete. I'm fascinated by that one. If Clara or Gigi was to win the final match, whether they'd be referred to as the King of Bowling.
I have nothing.
So yeah, and then of course the senior has that been announced yet?
Which one?
About the senior stop.
The PBA 50 has been canceled as well.
Yeah. So there you go. So
yeah, postponed. At this point, they're looking to move it
later in the year. Or something.
Yeah, I mean, and because there's no TV tied with that, it really could be. We don't have anything scheduled after late October right now. I think what it really puts in the air is the playoffs and the end of the World Series shows, because it made a lot of sense to tie those in with the Masters and kind of have everything in one venue. But without the Masters there, that makes it trickier to pull that off for sure. So I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know where we're at, and I don't know that it makes sense to have a whole bunch of people. Like I said, what they're doing is a relatively small field you can control much easier than, like say, the PBA 50 was 192 entries. It's just an impossible thing to control, I think, with our resources. So,
yeah, I don't know what the scenario is going to be with those matches. We'll see how that ends up playing out. It's going to be a little sad if that ends up being.
I like that, Billy. Bet if you ask Walter, 50 titles matter. But they did when he won them. They weren't giving them away. For winning the skins game, he didn't get a title for any of those. So,
yeah, Billy, I see exactly what you're saying. I also don't think that if I introduce Walter Reyes, a 9-time major winner and 7-time player of the year, everybody's going to go, "Oh no, he's still like that." Didn't change shit about Walter Ray. Whether I say he's got 47 titles or if I say he's got 9 majors and 7 players of the year,
yeah,
that's my point. If I introduce Chris Barnes as a Triple Crown winner, that doesn't mean that he's less important than having 19 titles. There's 7 guys with a Triple Crown. Like, it also makes it sound a little bit more normal when people talk about Belmo being the greatest bowler of all time at the minute. And he has 25 titles and there's 16 guys or whatever, 12 guys or whatever it is who have more titles than him.
Yeah.
It kind of makes more sense when you say he's got 13 majors and the next guy's got 11.
He's got more major titles than regular titles.
So
yeah, why did we skip bowling the 10K in Columbus? Well, because it's 15 hours away.
Yeah, because it's Columbus.
And by the time you get to 10, it still pays like a regional. So
yeah, even if it weighs Webb's place, now we might be talking about something different.
Well,
not
for
that
sure,
I'm
anyway.
Against the other place, it's just that my ball likes Wayne Webb's place.
Where is that one at?
I don't know, but it's not at Wayne Webb's place.
Well, the other place I won twice at, so
yeah, Sequoia,
but I don't think it's there either.
I don't think they're having a 192 person tournament at Sequoia.
Oh, it might be at the Palace then or someplace like that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but that's why there's some stuff to bowl in Texas, and the getting around doing that is the logistics of that were a little bit of a nightmare. So.
Yeah. Let's see. So who should we have? We need somebody we control on there. I guess if we bring on Norm Duke, Frank's just going to go into hiding. I think
Nobody else is, though. No, about a billion people will show up if Norm Duke comes on.
They want to know if the Lucy is still on Houston. No, it is not. It is also postponed.
But I spoke to Don. When I spoke to Donna, she said that they're looking to do it sometime between October and December.
Yeah, so
there it is. It's at Lex Lanes.
Lex Lanes. I haven't been to that one. I bowled a lot of places in Columbus in college and then afterwards, but not there.
Columbus is amazing how many bowling lanes it's got.
Yeah, it's a fantastic bowling city. I wish I lived closer because it would be a place to go to. But where are you bowling in Texas next? There is a regional this weekend, an over 50 and an under 50 on the same weekend. Unfortunately, not on separate days, so I have to pick a division. I can't just double dip, but I will be bowling in the regular division.
Here we go. Rick's trying to troll me here. I want to stir Stu up. Belmo still needs to prove himself. I want to watch him in best of 7. Nobody wants to bowl it, though.
Yeah, best of 3s. He's pretty. His record's pretty solid in those so far.
3-game total. He's taking care of people.
Yeah, the Masters thing. He seems to win that every time. I think he is one of the guys that would be just fine in the best of 7 as well. It wouldn't take him very long to figure out. He'd just throw urethane for about 3 games, and then everybody else would be done, and then you just move left of that, and his ball would still hook. But
yeah, it's good. There you go. Andy Patterson wants an exclusive. William Gannam versus AAJJ, 3-game match. They'd have to be in the same bowling center, though. I don't think Williams' troll powers could work. If they weren't. Although he did manage to sizzle AJ pretty good after AJ got off our show. So, yeah.
there.
Here we go. Sorry. It's not Alex Lanes. It's HP Lanes. I don't know where HP Lanes is.
I don't know either. So I bowled Buzzsaw, bowled a bunch of those places. There's a lot of nice, like I said, there is a lot of nice centers there, and a lot of that is a great bowling town. So when's AJ coming back? Right after he wins. So if he wins this weekend, he'll be there soon. We might have him on Tuesday. But I don't know.
Rick. Prove that he can't.
There you go. I mean, it would be the one way to I wouldn't mind best of 7 coming back. Might extend my career a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind best of 7 because any duck can have their day. I only have to beat one guy then. I don't have to beat the other 45.
Yeah, the other 45, they're all at 500 RPMs. So,
I mean, I'm tempted to see how many matches I could win by the other guy trying to knock my teeth out and me winning by a DQ.
There's a couple guys. Yeah, we got to get AJ. He's not even in the comments anymore. I don't know what's going on.
No, it's spoiling it. I mean, he doesn't realize how big a part of the show he became.
I know it. It's almost like you got a girlfriend. No, never mind.
Oh dear. You're gonna get AJ all up in his feelings again.
Maybe his dad will at least show up. I like him. So
all right.
This wrap it up. We'll come back on Tuesday, talk about what happened over the weekend. Unless the governor shuts the whole state down in about an hour.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to.
I don't think so.
About schools.
Yeah, probably. So.
All right. Take care.
All right. For all you out there, take care of your families. Little prayer out to my sister. For the rest of you, stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless.
Take it easy.